Number 1.
At the time of her disappearance, Nancy was working as a fundraiser for a congressional campaign for the Republican National Committee in St. Louis, Missouri. Because of Nancy traveling all over the country for her job, she had hired Paul Collins to be a temporary live-in house sitter until she returned back home permanently to Annapolis. The day after Ronald Reagan won the presidential election, Nancy flew home to Maryland. She lived in Annapolis and planned on attending a party at a hotel located in Baltimore on the evening of November 5. Nancy had dated the man throwing the party and had spent the night in the hotel before having breakfast with the man who threw the party the next morning. The man told the police that Nancy had waited with him until Paul Collins arrived to pick her up and that Nancy had told him she planned on driving to Connecticut to visit relatives. According to Collins, he drove Nancy back to her home in Annapolis before she went to a local restaurant for a drink. She returned home and told Collins that she had met a man at the restaurant's bar named Captain J, and that Captain J had said he was driving to Florida to pick up a yacht and then deliver said yacht to the Caribbean. Nancy allegedly told Collins that Captain J had asked her to accompany him, and she agreed. Collins told the police that he drove Nancy to an intersection in Annapolis in the early morning hours of November 8 and that she had gotten into a white van. She had one bag of clothes with her and $1,000 in cash, according to Collins. Collins also said she told him to continue to pay her bills with her checkbook while she was gone and that she had planned to return by Christmas. Nancy's relatives did not buy either the story about her driving to Connecticut to visit relatives nor the Captain J story. The Connecticut visit seemed unlikely since she had just returned home from an extended trip across the country. The Captain J story was not believed because Nancy's family said she wouldn't have gone on such a trip like that without telling them where she was going. Nancy's 3 daughters lived on the West Coast with their father, Nancy's ex-husband, and her oldest daughter Stacy traveled to Maryland to search for her in January of 1981. Stacy arrived and questioned Collins, who told the same story he would eventually tell police. Nancy was hired to travel on a yacht with a man named Captain J. Stacy and Collins traveled to Florida to try and find Nancy, and this was when she was first reported missing. For the next 6 months, Collins was still using Nancy's checkbook and forging her signature. He also was using her vehicle as his, despite telling her daughters that he had put it up in storage. Now here is where it gets a bit weird. According to Charlie Project, after being questioned by the Annapolis police about Snow's disappearance in October 1981, Collins fled to the Bahamas after reportedly stealing $200 in cash, a set of chimney sweeping equipment, and some magnetic signs from his employer. Warrants were issued for his arrest in connection with the thefts. However, according to this Baltimore Sun article, written in 2005, tensions arose between the daughters and Collins, who still lives in Maryland, Justine said. He did not respond to telephone messages. It seems odd that he would flee to the Bahamas and then return back to Maryland, but it appears that he did. I found court records which indicate that he was served with the warrant for the theft in August of 1982 before the case was closed in December of 1982. It appears that nothing came out of the police questioning or his fleeing to the Bahamas. There has been no activity on her social security number since her disappearance, and none of her credit cards have ever been used. Nancy was legally declared dead in 1985. Even though it was initially believed by some friends that Nancy could have taken off on a whim to travel to the Caribbean, her friends and family now believe that she met with foul play. Nancy's family suspected that Paul Collins knew more about her disappearance than he was letting on, and he has not cooperated with the police. In 2010, the police unexpectedly announced that they were looking for a 55 sailboat named Cotton Blossom and how it might be the key to finding Nancy's killer. It goes on to say, police got the information late last year after a man suspected in the death of Snow agreed to meet with detectives, said David Cordell, chief investigator of the Anne Arundel County State Attorney's Office. Prosecutors offered the man limited immunity, meaning they wouldn't use any information he provided against him. Police were hoping he could lead them to Snow's remains for the benefit of Snow's family, but the man didn't accept the offer. The article does not name this man, But this information somewhat aligns with what Collins initially told investigators about Nancy being hired to pilot a yacht to the Caribbean. The only problem was that the Cotton Blossom was docked at the Petrini shipyard, which was located in Annapolis. Collins' story was that Nancy was to travel to Florida with Captain J, where the yacht was docked. There has been nothing new or updated about this case since 2012. The police were still trying to figure out whether or not Captain J was real and if he ever did in fact meet Snow. They were also looking for a man named Sam or Sammy who dated Nancy around the time of her disappearance and was a shoe salesman. The biggest revelation in the newer articles is that the police are investigating this as a homicide and not a missing persons case. So what do you all think? What happened to Nancy Marleine Snow?
Number 2.
Ronya Livoni and her family moved from Italy to Sydney, Australia in 1970 when she was 7 years old. By 1977, her parents separated and her father returned to Sydney. Ronya, her brother Luciano, and their mother, Elsa, remained in the Darwin area and settled in the suburb of Moyle. Life in the Darwin area was good. Ronya made many friends and people considered her a good person. Her best friend was Sarah Kendall. The two were inseparable and became blood sisters by cutting their fingers and mixing the blood together. While life was generally good for the teen, Ronya and Elsa argued more often than not. This caused a lot of strain in their relationship and in the household. Clearly, Ronya was not happy at this moment in her young life. Around 8:30 p.m. on March 9, 1980, Ronya stormed off to her bedroom after getting into an argument with Luciano for not helping Elsa around the house. She phoned Sarah in tears and told her she was going to run away. The two made previous plans to run away together the following night. They were to meet at a certain favorite place of theirs near Ronya's home, head into central Darwin, and then take a bus to Mount Isa, Queensland, a remote mining town. Sarah gave Ronya $4 that she owed her and begged her to wait until the following morning so she could go with her. However, Ronya insisted she had to leave that night. The next morning when Luciano awoke, Ronya was gone. He found nothing missing from his sister's bedroom. All of her belongings and cash were left behind, and nothing in her room had been touched. Luciano and Sarah separately searched for Ronya, but with no success. That morning, Ronya failed to show up for work at her secretarial job, and Elsa called police. Police initially treated Ronya as a runaway, despite the fact that she did not take any personal belongings or cash with her. Sarah also initially believed her best friend ran away like she said she was going to do. However, as time passed and Ronya never contacted anyone, police and family and friends suspect foul play. Authorities believe Ronya Livoni voluntarily left home around 11 p.m. March 9, 1980. What happened after that remains a mystery. There were several unconfirmed sightings of Ronya over the years since she disappeared. One of those unconfirmed sightings of Ronya occurred in 1992 in Mount Isa, Queensland, the mining town Ronya planned to travel to after she ran away. The following year, an inmate claimed he killed her and disposed of her body down a mine shaft in Mount Isa. Police searched the area but never found Ronya's body. They concluded the man made the story up after reading media reports covering the case. Prior to Ronya's disappearance, Elsa took in a lodger named Tom Bonetti and developed a relationship with him. However, the relationship was rocky from the start, with Bonetti often physically abusing Elsa and threatening to kill Luciano and Ronya. Sarah's parents convinced Elsa to get a court order requiring Bonetti to move out. On the day the court order was drawn, Bonetti was waiting outside the courthouse and attempted to get at Elsa, even while her friends and police officials were present. However, he did not harm her. In 2007, a new detective overlooked Ronya's case and was shocked to find police never questioned Bonetti over the girl's disappearance. He tracked him down to a house in Darwin, but discovered that Bonetti had been in the hospital when Ronya vanished and therefore was ruled out as a suspect. 38 years later, Ronya's case remains open and is still being actively investigated by police. Luciano resides in Brisbane and has 2 daughters. One bears a striking resemblance to his long-lost sister. He reconnected with their father, Corrado, in Sydney in the 80s. However, Corrado passed away in 1989. Elsa passed away in 2013 without ever knowing what happened to her daughter. If alive today, Ronya would be 59 years old.
Number 3.
A devastated dad whose son vanished in Portugal 11 years before Madeleine McCann believes the two cases were connected. Rene Hasee, 6, went missing from a beach while he was on holiday in Algeciras, just 25 miles from Praia da Luz, where Madeleine disappeared in 2007. Last night, heartbroken Andreas Hasee told The Sun, "I have no doubt Madeleine and Rene's cases are linked. The evidence is just too much, and the police are looking again at my son's disappearance. He was a lovely boy, my first child, and I will never get over what happened. I think of him every day and imagine what sort of man he would have been and what we would have done together. Just look at both of the children, you can see how handsome Rene is and how beautiful Madeleine looks, and they were almost the same age. I strongly believe both children were taken, there is no doubt of it." Initially, when Rene vanished in 1996, Portuguese police said he had drowned and failed to carry out any proper searches of the sea for 2 days. He ran ahead during a family walk on the beach to go in the sea. After losing sight of him, they never saw him again and were left with just his clothes lying on the beach. Andreas said, "They were convinced he went into the water, but I know in my heart he didn't. He was taken. I know it and I can feel it. I have no doubt Madeleine and Rene's cases are linked," Andreas Hasee said. An expert showed that even if he has drowned, the waves would have brought his body back, but they never found him. But he would not have gone into the sea on his own, and his footprints just stopped in the sand. The police investigation in Portugal was not thorough enough, and I see the similarities with what happened to Madeleine. Madeleine's prime suspect, Christian B., moved to the Algarve in 1995 shortly after being convicted of molesting a 6-year-old girl in his native Germany. The court heard he only stopped when she started screaming, and he said he had felt nothing during the attack. Andreas added, "The Portuguese police kept saying we don't get kidnappings here, it's not a big city, it's a holiday destination, but they were wrong. 2 children were taken from there, and who knows how many others. When I saw the picture of the man in prison, all I could see was evil, and then, when his record came out and the fact he was living nearby just made me convinced he must be connected. When I think that Rene and Madeleine may have ended up in the hands of that pedophile, it makes me sick. He is a convicted pedophile and always will be. Those tendencies never leave. It has brought everything flooding back for us, and my poor father-in-law traveled back and forth to Portugal from Germany so many times to look for Rene, and in the end it made him sick. We all offered to help the Portuguese police to look for Rene, but all they did was shrug their shoulders and say, 'What can you do?' It comes as the German prosecutor investigating Madeleine's disappearance fears Christian B. may have committed more crimes against British victims. Hans Christian Wolters said he has evidence Madeleine is dead, but not enough to charge Christian B. He told Sky News, "We think our suspect has done more crimes, possibly against British, Irish or American people. All these people are asked to call us so we can solve these cases." He added, "All indications we have got that I can't tell you points in the direction that Madeleine is dead. The hard evidence we don't have the crucial evidence of Madeleine McCann's body. We expect that she is dead, but we don't have enough evidence that we can get a warrant for our suspect in Germany for the murder of Madeleine McCann."
Number 4.
Detectives probing the disappearance of a teenage boy who went missing almost 15 years ago have arrested 2 men on suspicion of kidnap and human trafficking. Andrew Gosden vanished from Doncaster in September 2007, aged 14, and the mystery surrounding his disappearance has been one of the most high-profile missing persons cases of the last 20 years. The straight-A student was last seen on CCTV at King's Cross in September 2007 at around 11:20 a.m. the same day, but the reason for him heading to the capital and his whereabouts have since remained a mystery. His father, Kevin, previously feared that a child sex ring was involved in Andrew's abduction. But despite national TV and radio appeals, poster and email campaigns, he has not been seen since. Now, detectives have confirmed they arrested 2 men in London, assisted by officers from the Metropolitan Police, on Wednesday, December 8. South Yorkshire police said a 45-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of kidnap, human trafficking and the possession of indecent images of children. And a 38-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of kidnap and human trafficking. Both have now been released under investigation while enquiries continue. Andrew, who would be 28 now, disappeared on September 14, 2007, just 4 months after Madeleine McCann had gone missing in May. A statement issued on behalf of Andrew Gosden's family on Twitter said, "It is a difficult time for Andrew's family who currently know no more than what is written in the article. Police investigations will be ongoing for quite a while and we respectfully ask you to give them your support and consideration whilst this takes place." Andrew left his home in the Balby area of Doncaster on September 14 and was seen heading down Littlemore Lane towards Westfield Park at around 8:30 a.m. Once his parents had left for work, Andrew returned home and changed out of his school uniform into casual clothes, consisting of a black Slipknot t-shirt, black jeans, and a black bag. Around an hour later, he withdrew £200 from his bank account and boarded a London-bound train at Doncaster Station. He was captured on CCTV at King's Cross Station at around 11:20 a.m. the same day. That was the last known sighting of Andrew, and since then no information about his movements has been corroborated by police, despite a massive manhunt. Video footage and witnesses reveal Andrew boarded a train at Doncaster and spent the journey playing on his handheld PlayStation. By around 11:45 a.m., the 14-year-old was in London, hundreds of miles away from home and his family. The contradictions in Andrew's behavior that day has led to conflicting theories about whether he had decided to run away or if he was on a day trip that went horribly wrong. One theory is that Andrew had arranged to meet a friend or attend a concert in the capital when something or someone happened to him, but no evidence of a plan has ever been uncovered. A more sinister suggestion is that Andrew was groomed by someone who had arranged to meet him in London that day. But again, no evidence of any communication with anyone on his plans has ever come to light. Senior Investigating Officer, Detective Inspector Andy Knowles, said, "Our priority at this time is supporting Andrew's family while we work through this new line of inquiry in the investigation. We are in close contact with them, and they ask that their privacy is respected as our investigation continues. We have made numerous appeals over the years to find out where Andrew is and what happened to him when he disappeared. I would encourage anyone with any information they have not yet reported to come forward." Over the years since his disappearance, Andrew's family has campaigned hard to try to find what had happened to him. A search was made of the River Thames at one stage. Experts even drew up artists' impressions of what he would look like as an adult to try to update the search. South Yorkshire Police also released an updated computer-generated image of what Andrew may look like in 2019, in the hope renewed publicity might finally lead to the answers. Andrew's father Kevin previously told the Sunday People police fixated on accusing him of being involved, meaning crucial time was lost. He said, "It's one of the horrifying thoughts that goes through your head even though you don't want it there. I feel that he was going to something and, somewhere along the line, he fell foul of somebody." He said he was also driven to the point that he attempted to kill himself and was in no mental state to properly raise his daughter Charlotte. Kevin added, "But because of my mental state after Andrew disappeared, I was unable to be the dad I wanted to be while Charlotte was still at home." Kevin and wife Gleenies thought their son had headed to London to broaden his horizons and indulge his passion for visiting museums. The Gosdens were both working as speech therapists when Andrew disappeared. Kevin gave up work because he couldn't think straight and has struggled with depression ever since. Andrew, who was predicted straight A's in his GCSEs, had been earmarked for the government's Gifted and Talented scheme, which aims to stretch top students. He disappeared 8 days into the new school term and was last seen on grainy CCTV footage, leaving King's Cross Station the only confirmed sighting of him. In behavior completely out of character, he had pretended to leave for Macaulay Catholic High School as normal, returning home to get changed and then get a train to London. Andrew's bank account has not been used since he made the withdrawal on the morning of his disappearance. Kevin issued a fresh appeal for information last year on the Missing podcast, in the hope renewed publicity might finally lead to answers. Describing how it feels to still be searching all these years later, he said. You know when your kids are little and you're in a shopping center, or on the beach or on the park or something, and you lose sight of them for a minute. And you get that heart in your mouth, heart-wrenching, oh my god, where are they sensation. It's that sensation just prolonged for hours, days, weeks, months and years, where you're just absolutely panicking about making sure your kid's safe. The not knowing, the waking up every day forever and ever wondering about his existence, even it's an extended torture. No traces were ever found of him communicating with anybody, Kevin said. We never have found one shred of evidence that he had an event or destination in mind, that he was communicating with anybody. It genuinely seems that whatever was going on in his head was only in his head. Kevin also struggles to accept that his son would put his family through the heartache of running away. Just a few weeks before his own disappearance, Andrew and Kevin spoke about Madeleine McCann, who had gone missing in May 2007. I remember sitting on the sofa in our front room seeing the news of Madeleine McCann's disappearance unfolding and going, it must be every parent's worst nightmare, Kevin recalled. And Andrew goes, yeah, that's awful. And a few weeks later he disappears off the face of the earth. As well as appealing for information, Kevin urged parents to remain vigilant and to discuss the issue of going missing with their own children. He added, this could happen to anybody. Like us, everything might seem perfectly comfortable and normal, and yet, out of the blue this happens. I encourage people to talk about this with their kids. It never, ever crossed our minds to talk about going missing.